Hey everyone, and welcome to Television from the Multiverse DC TV podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and over there on the red side of the screen is Connor. And of course, we're going to talk about this week's DC shows, which do include Legends of Tomorrow. It includes The Flash. It includes Black Lightning. That's it for the news shows. There was no Arrow this week, so yay!
Yeah. My liver got a break, which was quickly made up for by Paddy's Day. So.
So that's the three news shows. We are working with the Young Justice, but we also, to swap in for Arrow, so we still had four sort of, full shows. We put in a Lois and Clark, as we've been doing. We've been swapping in Lois and Clark and Smallville. You'll get a Smallville next week, because both Flash and Arrow are off next week, but the first episode of Krypton is on, so you get a Smallville next week along with the Krypton premiere. Much like when we started Black Lightning, the Krypton, if you want to go check it out on YouTube, there will be an individual review of that on its own that we'll do earlier in the week, and then it'll be edited into the overall podcast for everyone in the regular podcast, and then following weeks it'll just be part of this show, as Black Lightning is now. So same difference, that's what we'll do with new shows, but unless it's completely terrible and we don't want to watch it, but I've got a funny feeling that at the very least we'll have a curiosity factor for a while.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah, so, but hey, so, that is the plan. So, so we got the shows this week. No news, I don't think, about TV-related things.
I don't recall any.
I don't think so, no. So with that, I guess we can just crack on straight into the episode. So, let's talk about Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 14. It's called Amazing Grace. Knew nothing about this episode before I started it. And the first sign that something, what the episode was going to be about, was when Zari goes to, she's pissed at Wally because Wally's beat all her high scores in Miss Pac-Man because he's got super speed. Although I question if those buttons could even handle the super speed fingers. But
yeah, I'm not too sure about that either.
But it's a funny joke, so I'll let him away with it. And she's like, "You better not mess with Guitar Hero." And then she picks up the case, and it's Trumpet Hero.
Trombone Hero.
Oh, was it Trombone Hero? And yeah. I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah, I have to say, at least Trumpet Hero would make more sense.
Yeah. No, to be fair, I instantly got what it was from that because we had the opening scene that introduced Elvis. So I got that we were going to Elvis in some way. But as soon as it was the Guitar Hero turned to Trumpet Hero, it was like,
yeah.
Rock and roll's been removed, and therefore everything's changing. More on the changes in a minute. Just a slight nitpick, and I get that this is just for copyright reasons. But the case for the game looked like a pirated copy of a game because there was no
didn't it?
Because there was no PlayStation banner or whatever. Pick your console. Now
it was very strange.
You could argue it's the PC copy. I don't know if Guitar Hero was ever even released in PC. But even if it was, we've only ever seen her play consoles.
Yeah.
So
I was saying, I know that the Rocksmith did, which was the one that used the actual guitars.
Yeah, but this was a Guitar Hero reference, so
it was. I don't know about Guitar Hero.
I think that I think in terms of I think it was just PS2, and then it was both PS3 and 360 when it
definitely
when it went over to the next generation. I think that's where they were on. I was never a big fan of them. I was never really into the rhythm games, but
I played my fair share.
But it looked dodgy. As someone who plays games and is used to what the cases look like, it just felt like
you can see it just being a printout. Sometimes where you'll buy a used game and the case was, whatever happened, so they kind of print their own thing. It just looked like one of those.
It kind of did, yeah. I mean, I'll forgive it because I get it. It's a copyright thing. They can't just slap the PlayStation logo or the Xbox logo on it. Yeah. But still, But hey, it's a shame Warner Brothers don't own a gaming console. For times like this, because how we never need a cartoon, it's always Bugs Bunny and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they own that. But hey, so her game's changed. The rat, who we've not seen in a while, Rory's mixed rat, which is Axel, named after, of course, Axel from Guns N' Roses, changes its name to, what was the name it changed to?
Josh Groban.
There you go. Is that someone? Am I laugh at who that is?
Yeah, no, he's someone.
Is he a pop star or something like that?
It's like a singer-songwriter.
Okay, never heard of him. But just from context, I assumed it was someone he didn't like.
Someone shy.
Yeah. And then arguably the funniest one is just midway through a scene, Nate's hair just changes to just kind of just down and kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened to your hair? And they're looking at him like, oh my god, what's wrong with you, Nate? And he's like, oh god, my hair! What happened to my shine?
All the volume's gone.
And so basically, yeah, so the final totem, the death totem, is on the guitar that Elvis buys in the start of the episode. And through using that guitar, which gives him talent too quickly. You know, he's got talent before he's meant to have it, seemingly. He raises a lot of ghosts. We don't really find out it's specifically ghosts until later in the episode, but that's essentially what must have happened. And rock and roll was sort of dead before it started because he ended up turning Memphis into a ghost town. So rock and roll never took off in the way that we know it. So this is about saving rock and roll. This is about going back to Memphis in the 50s and making sure Elvis starts his career and, you know, stopping the ghosts from happening. That's the plot of this episode.
I'm down for all of those things. rock and roll, time travel, and ghosts. How can it go wrong?
Yeah, I can't. I mean, honestly, the only thing going against this episode is that Bubba Hotep exists. So I already have my favourite Elvis versus a supernatural entity movie.
That's fair.
Right, and that's a fantastic that like see for B movies, that is a goddamn 10. I love Bubba Hotep. I love it.
Fair enough.
But this was not bad. Right?
No, it was.
I mean, this dude playing Elvis is not Bruce Campbell, which is a shame. But
that I will give you.
Yeah. But hey, he's fine. He's whatever. My only critique, really, of the music stuff is that, you know, sometimes when they play songs and shows and movies, it feels like, you know, it's got that musical effect where it doesn't sound like it's off the room. It sounds like it's just tacked on, you know. Yeah. It's especially bad here because I think they've clearly got someone else who can do a better Elvis impression singing the tracks, and it just doesn't match him at all. It's like, that's not his voice. In no way, shape, or form is that his voice.
No, that's true.
So, you know.
I mean, they mostly did a good job of making it feel in the room. It just doesn't feel like it's coming out of his mouth.
Oh, that's fair. Maybe it's just it bypasses whether that sounds good anyway, because it's just the disconnect's already there, so it doesn't matter.
Your brain just looks at it and goes, nope.
Yeah. So, that is like a minor. I mean, it's a minor nitpick. It doesn't ruin the episode or anything, but it's worth mentioning. So Nate's trying to convince Amaya that rock and roll's great, and he's, you know, saying, "Oh, come on, listen to Elvis's first recording session," and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and Nate's got this thing against ska for some reason.
I'm not gonna lie, I laughed a lot at both digs at ska.
I just like,
because what's the first one? He says something like, "Well, what if it's been replaced with ska," or something like that. He says it's something along those lines.
Yeah. And
then later on he makes another dig at ska. And as someone who doesn't like ska, I was amused by these jokes, so I'm okay with it.
I love two-tone, which is kind of a subgenre of ska. So yeah, I mean it's kind of a fusion, but it doesn't exist without ska. So I'll let ska take a pass.
Okay. So yeah, something they've not actually done. I'm surprised how little they've done it with Amaya since she joined the team. And it's been like season and a half now at this point she's been on the show.
Yeah.
There's been very little fish out of water, like her not grasping new technology. Like, yeah, I feel like given the show's sense of humor, you feel like they'd probably have done it a little bit more. But
I feel like it's kind of too late for most of that now, right? Because she's been on the ship for so long. She's picked up the ship's technology, so everything else...
Oh, now, sure. But you have to admit, it's kind of weird that there wasn't a fair bit of it in the first half of season 2.
Yeah, that's true.
So I actually because I've not done a lot of it, I actually kind of liked the couple of times in this where they kind of referenced, like she mentions she discovered Netflix, right? Yeah. And then at the end of the episode, and she's like frustrated because even though she understands the technology, you get the sense that she's not really like, she doesn't choose to use it as much as everyone else does, because she doesn't, she's just not as innate with like a smartphone, and she's getting frustrated, and she's like, and Gideon's, do you want some help? It's like, look, I can figure out a playlist, damn it, shut up. And she's trying to do the playlist, which again leads to a funny moment because she makes Nate listen to music from Zimbabwe.
She doesn't even like it. You can tell.
Oh, Zambezi, sorry, not Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's a real place.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Well, this might be a real place as well, but as far as I know, I've never heard of it. But
me either.
Every time she mentions it, I think of Zimbabwe because it's the closest thing in my head that sounds like it.
I get you. There's a link.
Yeah.
I don't think she likes it either. I think she's going, "Hey Nate."
Oh, she doesn't.
Screw with it.
Yeah, she's like, because he's like, "Oh, you're from the 40s. It'll be like big band stuff, trumpets and trombones, great." And he puts it. I was like, "No, this is from Zambezi. Here, listen to this." He's like, He's like, "Now you know what it's like when I'm listening to rock and roll, you dickhead."
Yeah. I do think that's part of why we got the technology things this episode, is because the whole concept is music from beyond her time anyway. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
baked into it in this one.
Yeah, it's just kind of reminding you of this so that this joke works at the end, if nothing
Yeah.
else. Yeah. Nah, it works. Uh, so Elvis's uncle's at this, preacher who's over, rock and roll's the devil's music, all that jazz. And they go to, well, all that rock. Then they go to the church where Elvis goes every Sunday. And people from Memphis in the 50s are racist as shit. We kind of established that very quickly. And Zari's totem starts to react to Elvis's playing because he's got a totem on his guitar. She starts floating and they're like, it's the devil! The devil's in her!
Yeah, and you've
so
got Nate plus all the girls at the front swooning over Elvis.
Yeah, they're all swooning, and the preacher's realizing, because it starts off as that's a very Christian song, and then as it's going on, he starts to put a bit more Elvis flair into it, and you can just see the preacher like, stop shaking your hips, stop it,
yeah,
stop it,
exactly.
Oh dear. So, so the general premise is inherently fun. I think that's the thing we're quite to say. Honestly, my favorite part of this episode, maybe how it's surprisingly emotional the death of Axel the Rat is.
It's when they do the montage after the credits that killed me though.
That was good. That was really funny because obviously, so he's got the rat and the name changes and he's pissed, and then he's trying to like feed it the Elvis Presley sandwich with Elvis's mum was known for making, and he steals it at the church. Mick's head's in the right place as always.
Hey, food stealing sounds like Mick.
But it's the same where he finds the rat dead. It's seemingly overdosed itself on one of Ray's chemicals.
He looks horrified.
He looks horrified, and then like Mick's like, because what is one more change in this show? You can tell, he's feeling really bad that everything's changing. This is not just about Axel. This is about Victor. Dying.
Yeah, it's about all the new people. Think about it. From the start of the show, the only people left are Sarah, Ray, and Mick.
Yeah, and to be fair, most of the changes are for the better because bye Hawks.
Yeah. And to be fair, they've been very natural for the most part and gradual.
Sure, yeah.
They've not just dumped, to actually compare it to something relevant. Arrow. Where they went, let's just dump a slate of new characters at the start of a season.
No, because they started off with some rough characters, but they actually removed the problem characters. And I'd include Snart to a point in that, because even though he has his moments, I do think he was kind of dragging the show down a little bit. I think, because Nate and Amaya in season 2 were good they added to the cast. They were good improvements.
I don't know if I'd say Snart was a problem, because we never got to see him with
a better writer.
That wasn't season 1.
Well, it's probably some of the same writers, but just better writing. Yeah.
Style and tone, everything that the show was doing season 2 onwards, we never saw him properly in that period. So,
but you can see that with the Hawks as well.
You can, but Snart was always just, he's fine. Some Hawks were downright awful.
Yeah. So no, and then Ray feels bad, so he puts on a little funeral, and Sarah's there. So while this is going on, because Nate and Amaya try to make sure Elvis plays his music, but then they get arrested. And then Wally and Zari go out to try and then kind of finish the plan and make sure the music gets played on the radio, so that's happening. While this is going on, though, they're having a little funeral, and Sarah's against it, but then she's all fine, she's drinking booze as this is happening. And then he's like, so traditionally the captain would say a few words like, you did a good job, Ray. Okay, join me in a chorus of Sweet Child of Mine. And he's almost about to hum it, he's like, and just about when we'd have to pay for copyright,
he does like the very first note.
Yeah, you can tell what he's about to do. You can tell he's about to sing the real tune. And then she's like,
it's just, you could have gone slightly further though.
Oh, you probably could have done, but it's just like, no, we're not paying for the rights so we could hum Sweet Child of Mine. So, and it's a funny joke because Sarah's like, no, we're not singing a song together.
All right, fine, I'll say something.
Yeah, but of course, Joe, it's funny because during this scene I was like, I'm really enjoying this rat subplot, but it also feels very separate. But then it felt very relevant because once Elvis starts playing, or he's over the radio, and the ghosts all start to rise, we see the ghost of Axel rise as well. And here's the thing, the scene where little ghost Axel comes up to the sandwich, and Mick's like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? And then the rat looks up at him, then fades away because all the ghosts are going away again. I was like, I'm kind of moved by this. This is working. As someone who has pets, this scene is fundamentally working for me.
Fine. It didn't touch me the way it did you.
It
Clearly.
was a touching goodbye, and then they actually put in the memoriam at the end, the in
Yeah.
loving memory of Axel 2016 18, and we got the first appearance when Ray even mentioned it in the episode where he was little and the big rat.
Chasing him around.
Yeah, and then Mick having it in the cage. It was surprisingly touching. That's all I'm saying.
It's very very amusing for all of it as well.
Oh, it was very amusing. But I think anytime Mick shows he has a heart, because he's
it's when he goes to wipe the tear during the funeral. That's the moment.
Yeah, because it's like he's taking it seriously. Like he's not really saying anything. He's clearly taking it seriously, even if he's not willing to say it out loud and admit it. Another scene I really so there's a thing here which neatly paired up with a joke in the Flash, because at one point in the Flash, before just to sort of skip ahead to one brief moment without spoiling too much, but the plot of the Flash this week is that Iris gets Barry's powers. So it's a power swap episode. And there's a moment where Iris speeds out the room when they get a notification for things happening, and Barry sighs and goes, "That's kind of annoying," right?
Mm.
And in this episode, Zari's getting annoyed because Wally keeps speeding and just doing things like quickly. Here's the chores. Oh, he's just done them. Oh, I know you used to love him a speedster. Oh, you're bunking with me until we move everything into Stein's old room. Oh no, just done it. And she's just pissed at him. And there's a couple of times where he just speeds off and gets a guitar. And it's like, okay, they're addressing that he can just go do things really quickly.
Yeah, and he wants to just go and do it, and Zari has to go, no, you can't just do it like that.
Yeah, because later on, they have to go get the record back, and he's like, well, I could just go speed and get it. And she's like, and this was a nice reference to the start of the season, when Rip was describing, oh, well, yeah, they're a chainsaw instead of a scalpel, but sometimes you need a chainsaw. But what I really like about this scene is, I like this scene for multiple. I think this is a really smart scene because, on one hand, it's telling us why Wally's not always going to speed off and just do things really quickly, because sometimes you have to actually go up and sort of analyze the situation and speak to people and make sure smooth things over, not just quickly do it without them understanding what's happened, right? But two, the fact that we're referencing that scalpel and chainsaw thing, and it's Zari saying, hey, we need to be a scalpel and not a chainsaw, is actually good character development for her, because she's the one for the first half of this season who kept wanting to just break the rules and change things and not care about what the rules were.
Yeah, it's all since that time loop episode, and even to the point where she's the one showing Wally around. She was very resistant. She wasn't really part of the crew until that. Not really.
Yes, even that in and of itself, she was the newbie at the start of the season, and now she's training the new newbie. So that's actually, I think this scene accomplished like 3 or 4 different, important things for the show and the characters effortlessly. It was a great scene.
It was great writing.
Yeah, it was good. And I was like, Zari's learned. I like this a lot. So they go off, and it pays off a little bit because when the music's on the radio and he makes her dance. And by the way, Wally's a total goofball as well, mate. So when he started dancing, I'm like, oh my god, Wally.
Yep.
Control yourself, man. But hey, and then of course that raises the ghost, and then Elvis needs to play more music to put them all back. And of course, the ghost of his dead twin, which as soon as they said this, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I've heard this. Just this trivia that he had a twin at birth that died. Is that a real thing?
No idea.
I assumed you know about this.
No,
you're the music guy.
I am, but I don't know whether or not Elvis had a twin. That's not in all music knowledge. I mean, it sounds plausible. No, yes.
Yes, he survived his brother's stillbirth. Right, okay, so there's as soon as they said it, I couldn't have told you that trivia from the top of my head, but when they said it, when they mentioned it in the show, I was like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of that. I think I've heard that he had a brother that died.
Cool.
Alright. That was me thinking Connor would just, confirm my thoughts.
I'm sorry, it's kind of irrelevant trivia. It doesn't really add to anything that I need to know.
Yeah. Also, is this the first time they've dealt with ghosts? Because it's actually a really fun scene when Ray and Sarah, and he's like, oh, the EMP, and he sort of gets to, he's like, oh, it's associated with paranormal nonsense, and then the spooky stuff starts happening. He's like, as in ghosts, and then you see the sort of the dead brother, who's played by the same actor because he's a twin brother, obviously, and he's got this sort of greaser hair, and he's sort of holding it, and then he turns into like a frosty ghost, and it was fun. So yeah. I can't fault most of the. If anything, the weakest part is I felt like the preacher uncle was just a little bit too easy, I guess, is maybe the word I'd use.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, like Wally gives him his little speech, and it's a really nice little speech, but he just kind of quickly like goes over to it, and then the ghosts start rising, and he's back to being all, you know, this is the devil.
Well, but this is the thing. The speech didn't really work, did it? Because he still he didn't give him the record to let it play. It's like it got him a little bit, but Wally still had to speed the record.
He did give him the record. What are you talking about?
I think I was reading it the way that
he handed him the record. He just speeded to get it to the radio in time.
Okay, I thought it was more just like he was still being a bit resistant.
No, he gave it to him.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I just misread the scene.
All right, okay. Yeah, no.
To be fair, in terms of this is devil music, it starts playing and then ghosts appear.
Look, sure. I felt like he was a light character as opposed to someone I got invested in.
I'm not saying he was a deep character. He was a side plot's uncle for one episode.
I'm trying to be devil's advocate and look for faults, okay? And I'm just saying that would be like a fault I'd give it.
No, that's fair.
Right. Okay.
I would say on the ghosts, I appreciate that they at least mentioned that Sarah, spoke to Constantine.
Oh yeah. She comes out and says, "Oh yeah, I spoke to Constantine. Here's his advice."
Yeah. I mean, obviously didn't need to see him or anything like that, but it would have felt weird if they didn't mention him. I think, like, or even if it had been like a joke of, he would have been helpful or something,
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, when I said I've not dealt with supernatural before, I specifically meant ghosts flying around.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've dealt with
demons,
and possession and whatnot. But hey, so I lost track. If I not, I mean, they put it in a box at the end, and the box starts shaking. That's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But if I missed anything, you threw me off track with your.
I don't think so.
Your nonsense. All right, good. Good. As for Wally, obviously we mentioned that they're kind of handling his speed powers, at least so far. It's been one episode, but we'll so far so good.
There's not been any. Yeah, my concern is, okay, well, if there's just going to be a fight that Wally could just fix quite easily, he could just win this fight, and I
think they handled that quite well this episode, and I'm hoping this will be the tactic going forward, is that they all split into different teams for different jobs, so he's not necessarily with other groups as they're dealing with things.
I agree.
And then if he's not there,
his speed was not appropriate necessarily where he was.
Exactly. So I like that. I think that's a good way of handling it. And if he's not with other groups that get into trouble, and that means he may not know they're into trouble, and then he doesn't have a reason to just speed over and whoosh-a-dish. That's my new phrase for a speedster, swooping in and beating everyone up. Yeah. The whooshy-dish. Because whoosh and then douche.
No, I got it.
All right. Not douche as in douchebag. Douche as in just
a punch.
Yeah.
Like a hit, yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on?
We probably should after that.
Yeah, but it was a pretty solid episode of Legends. Is the point. So yeah, Legends being consistent and giving me character development. It's nice. It's nice stuff. So we'll move on to the Flash, which is called Run Irish Run, episode 16 of season 4. And of course, get into this, it was kind of obvious, okay, this is going to be a power swap episode, and sure enough, what was really cracking me up though is that the character it's a bus meta who does the power swap, right? And we see it in a scene at the bank with this other guy who's got like melting powers.
It's just a lot of fire.
Yeah, he swaps it to some other guy, some guy wearing a metal t-shirt. By the way, on t-shirts actually. Cisco was rocking a fantastic t-shirt in this episode. The Jason Voorhees hockey mask with TGIF written under it. I just want to say that was on point.
And just to go back to the guy in the metal shirts.
Mm-hmm.
If the Legends hadn't fixed all that stuff
That's
with
true.
rock and roll, he wouldn't have been a problem.
That's actually one point I was thinking. Actually, whenever we get something in the 50s like this, and they're talking about Elvis as devil music, all I can think is, man, it's a good thing you're not around for like Trivium and Killswitch Engage. Jesus.
They're the lighter end as well. They're not even into like proper death metal.
Oh yeah. Obviously, there's like black death metal as well, which is just the real. That's where all the tracks are at least like 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just imagine go back and playing them some thrash metal and seeing how they just metal in general.
Just play like Slayer, Rain and Blood.
What do they think of that? Jeez. Hell, they probably think some pop music now would be devil music.
Yeah, rock and roll was a gateway.
This is because when I hear Elvis, I mean, it is rock and roll, but I don't even think of it as rock music as to what I think of as rock music, if that makes sense. Because now it's evolved so much.
No, I agree. Cause no, rock and roll is different to just rock.
Yeah, but rock came from, rock and roll led to rock. And
it did, yeah. That's the progression.
Yeah, and then there's progressive rock, which is not. I hate music genres. Because I'm someone who likes a couple of different kinds of metal, but I hate having to try and describe what type of metal I like because I don't know how to label it. It pisses me off. But anyway,
I'm always down for a bit of prog rock. Give me an 18-minute concept track. Why not?
Back to what we were talking about there. So the thing I was going to get to is the guy who's swapping the powers, who Cisco name's Melting Point. His name's Matthew. He's a medic who can take powers from people. Does that remind you of any shows that you might have watched in the past?
Does it? I don't know. Nothing sprang to mind while I was watching it.
The only difference being that he just swaps him to someone else. If he kept the power, he'd be like very similar to another character.
Yeah.
There's some Peter Petrelli potential.
There is. That said, if I recall, Peter Petrelli didn't take the power. He just
copied it. Okay, sure.
All
right, that's a fair distinction.
Probably why it didn't spring to mind.
That's fair. It's just because his job. It's because he was a paramedic. But he also,
no, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. But yeah, so he doesn't actually even realise that he gives powers to someone else. He just thinks he's taking them away at first until he sees the fire dude later on, causing chaos. And he actually comes, because by the end of the episode, he's like, yeah, okay, right, I'll work with you guys because I'm not a bad guy. I'm not intentionally trying to be a criminal. Because he helps with the bank robbery. He helps. He solves it. He saves people.
Yeah, that's his thing. He thinks he's just taking powers away, so he thinks he's just saving the day.
Yeah. But then he ends up, of course, transferring the powers to Iris from The Flash. Iris, who insists on going on the interview to talk to this guy because Ralph made a dig at her earlier in the episode. Well, of course you're not scared. You just sit back here. And by the way, Iris flat out saying, because I'm the leader of the team. I like that. Because,
fair enough.
Suck it. What was bugging me early on, though, is that when he says, oh, you don't understand, I'm in fear of losing my life constantly. I was like, mentioned Savitar last season,
that was
Iris.
The whole of last year.
Yeah, was that she was under threat of death the entire year. And to be fair, she mentions it towards the end of the episode to Ralph, so she does bring it up. I feel like, though, the natural way of writing this would have been as soon as he said that, like, bitch, please, Savitar.
You think you're in danger. We saw my death. We knew exactly when it was going to be.
Which, honestly, is probably my biggest complaint, is that Ralph isn't really acting like he left off last time we saw him. Remember last time he was like, oh, he killed the violinist, so I'm really upset. We need to get justice and take down DeVoe.
And he was all in on the buddy system, and he was giving Barry the PI card. It was like, you be my permanent buddy.
That was the last time we saw him before this episode, I think. And all of a sudden, he's just shit scared and doesn't want to leave the base. That was weird. I don't know what was going on there.
Nah. I mean, I didn't love the episode, to be honest.
I love it. I had enough fun. I think some people have been a bit too down on it. I mean, I think they could have done more with Iris having the powers, but I did like what they did do. I just wish there was a bit more. I like that she had her own version of the theme. That
was nice.
That tickled me.
I question things such as why is she fast? Because at first running on water was a big deal for Barry. To get even that immediately is like, I don't know if I'm fast enough. Iris just, I'm fine.
Because she took his powers, so she's immediately at his level.
But he's only that fast because of his training. It doesn't work like that, surely.
No, it's like a video game. You level up, so he's at level 16, and so when she took his power, she's at level 16.
This is bullshit.
It is bullshit. Look, Speed Force, bro. I ain't got to explain shit.
Yeah, well,
why is a lightning purple? I don't know.
Really good question. It's bugging me.
Because they liked Infamous Second Son and they wanted to match the speedster in that, and it actually, does remind you of that. It
makes no sense to me as to why it's not just yellow still.
That is true. But hey, I did like her just kind of stealing Caitlin's top in super speed.
Yeah.
And then going out, having the mask, Cisco whipping up the outfit, and then being pissed that she didn't even go, because she just throws her clothes back at him when she's changed, and he's like, I've got hangers. What? What I did like about it though is I like that Barry kind of says to her, if you don't want to swap back, I'll understand.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciated that, because him saying, no, these are my powers, I should have them. It's like, well, but you're only the Flash because you got the powers in the first place by chance. Like, you know, like, she could keep them. And I did enjoy the humour of, like, you know, when she first, like, not even when she runs out for super speed, it's just when she's going in the interview with Joe. She's like, oh no, I'll go, I don't get to go out much, I'll go. You guys don't hold the fort. And she gives some orders out to everyone else and she leaves. And Barry just sort of stands, he's like, can I hang out here?
Yeah.
This is why he goes on the missions, because he's useless at the base.
You say that, like, I've seen a lot of things recently about, you know, the whole, if you remember back to the first episode, how good, you know, pre-accident.
Oh sure.
How good of a forensic investigator he was. You know, where it did all the cool effects on the tire treads and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah, all that Sherlock text stuff where it came up on the screen. Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I think he's pretty capable at hanging around in at least in an investigative quality sense.
That is absolutely completely fair. At the same time, even though it makes no sense, he doesn't know which monitor that Iris uses to, like, you know, be, you know, at the command center. I still kind of chuckle when he goes to the wrong one and Cisco's like, nah, that one.
No, yeah.
I think I just like jokes that make Barry feel useless. I think I just enjoy that or something.
It kind of sounds like you don't like Barry that much.
I do like Barry, but not as much as a lot of the other characters.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so, you know, there's a thing. Honestly, I think I could have used more of Iris doing stuff with the powers, so maybe in my mind this could have been a two-parter, maybe, and we could have had Iris do more stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
I like that.
I'll tell you what one of my biggest problems is.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
So it's called Run, Iris, Run, for obvious reasons.
Which he eventually does say, and I smiled in a big cheesy smile, because it's cheesy as shit.
No. See, that's the thing. He says it completely straight, and I hate that. Because, you know, I thought that the characters are going to be so aware that that they've said it to him so often that it would be played as a joke, but it's not. He actually just legitimately says it to encourage it, and I hate that.
That, you know, that is a fair complaint. I still grin like a madman when he said it. Actually, do you know what my biggest disappointment this episode is? My biggest disappointment, easily, right? Easily the biggest thing that's wrong with this episode. At no point in this did Barry look at Iris in the eye and say, "We are the Flash."
No, you're right. That is just unacceptable.
That is the biggest sin of this episode, is that he didn't say that to her. God damn it.
I was waiting for Iris to be like, well, I guess I'm the Flash now. And Barry's like, well, no,
hold on a minute.
We were the Flash.
Yeah, still we.
Yeah.
That is
but no.
The joke writes itself. That is a huge missed opportunity.
There's a gold mine just waiting to be mined, and they're just like, nah, we ain't touching it.
Oh, dear. So, I mean, obviously this was nothing compared to last week's episode, which was one of the best episodes of the show. Clearly.
Yeah.
For me, this one kind of falls into, okay, the plot's kind of, you know, taking some weird shortcuts or some character things that don't quite work. But for the most part, the fun of the other character stuff kind of keeps me going. You know, like, all the Cisco stuff with Harry, where, like, Harry starts doing his voice, and it's in sync, and he's like, I don't sound like that, but he's also saying, I don't sound like that, at the same time. Yeah. You know, just little bits like that. Harry's building one of the thinking cap so that he can match the intellect. And Cisco quite rightly says, but hey, DeVoe was a good person before he used that. Maybe that's what turned him into an asshole.
And I still hate the way this works. I said it when DeVoe first got his powers, that we saw that, and
yeah.
He's solving things that just made no sense. It's the same here, where, like in the actual example, you know, in combat, where they're like, okay, what do we do? How do we get this fire tornado?
Yeah,
out?
So it's like he's running through all the options, and he gets to the correct one.
I'm completely okay with that. But there were some points where it's just like, oh, I just know this now. This is just information I have based on nothing.
Yeah, no,
it's when he works out who the bus metas are. I'm like, based on what information?
Yeah, that's the end of the episode. Is he has the last two names.
But they're not feeding any. Oh, these are all the people who were in the area. This is the likely option. No. It's just like, oh, I've got the names. It's cool.
I guess you could argue he is doing all that. We just don't hear any of it or see anything to tell us that he's doing that.
But we don't, because we see him using it with Cisco there, and he just sits there and thinks. And Cisco's like, "Hey, it's on too long. I think we should take it off."
No, that's what I'm saying, though, that he's using that information. Like, he's out, because they've already looked at potentials, and I don't know. I'm just trying to...
It just feels cheap. I really don't like the way this power works.
Well, that's the thing. It's not supposed to be a power. It's just supposed to be really intelligent. But they just seem to have information that they couldn't deduct.
Yes, exactly. It's not intelligence. It's just here's random information in your mind now.
That's fair. That's it. That's not really a complaint in this episode. It's just a complaint of the concept as a whole.
It is, but it was particularly glaring to me at that moment.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I feel like for all the reasons why some people hate this episode is why I kind of liked it, and it was all the Iris stuff. Which, and obviously she has some character development because she's been doing this full time, and she makes a realization at the end that the message of the Flash still has to be spread. The idea of spreading hope. So she's gone back to her blog, which takes her back to the start of the show.
The writers went, "Oh shit, yeah, there was that whole she's a journalist thing in the future. We should probably get back to that."
That's a good point. She's still supposed to be a journalist in the future. Which is fine. I'm okay with that. I don't really want her to go back to her job, though. I kind of like her just being the leader of the team and calling the shots.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not too fussed.
I like the character beat from it more than I like the potential of where it goes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. She outright says, this has been full time. She has no income from anywhere else, so she doesn't need a full-time job, so she can just do her blog stuff.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that because I like the idea that she realized that was doing good because it was spreading the idea of like the heroes and you know. Although I'm starting to think now that she's married to him, she's maybe want to use an alias or something. the blog by Iris West was a bit weird.
That was the thing when Matthew was in the base at the end. You've got all these people in there. You got Iris, her dad, and Cisco, like Cisco and Kane. I was like, and Barry's just there in outfit. I'm like, look. And
at one point, Caitlin even calls him, like, she's like, "Okay, Iris, you ready, Iris? You ready, Flash?" I'm like, look, anyone can figure this out.
And then Iris is saying calling Joe Dad.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like, literally, if he finds like Iris and Joe and like who they hang around with, he's like, wait, all of you were in that room. Plus the Flash, and there's only one extra person here in this everyday situation. I'm going to take a giant leap here and say that Barry fellow is probably the Flash.
Right, exactly. That said, he's on their team, he's sticking around at some point, so Barry's taking the mask off for him by the end of the season.
I am shocked he didn't do it in this episode, quite frankly.
Who am I?
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're hoping to use his powers to take Devoe's powers away, so it's a fine plan. It makes sense.
They're going to give him to Harry.
Oh yeah, Harry's going to battle Thinker v Thinker.
I think that's the only appropriate way for this season to end.
Well, they're kind of rubbing it in that Harry's getting frustrated because he's not as smart as him. So they're definitely seeding the idea that he wants to battle him in some way, intellectually.
Exactly.
So, it makes some sense. Yeah, so I didn't hate it. I had some fun with some of the stuff. I think there's definitely valid complaints. I think the Ralph stuff, even though I kind of like I like to see at the end where, or even earlier on, but remember the last week there was that joke about, who goes out, or 2 weeks ago, who goes out after the person when they storm out. And like Ralph storms out and Iris is like, "All right, I've got this one," and she goes out and talks to him. That's the first time they talk. I did as much as the Ralph stuff wasn't making a whole lot of sense to me, and he was being a little bit annoying because every single scene he was in, he was like, at the end of the scene, he's like, "Well, I'm going to get some more like donuts and just go back down to my hiding room." Like he did that like 5 times in this episode. It was insane.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, well, we don't know what to do with him for a bit, so just stick him in the basement.
Yeah, but I did kind of like the scene where she did kind of convince him and talked about DeVoe, and then he kind of like, "Okay, yeah, but I apologise for saying you were, behind the desk and therefore didn't go out in the day." Which even like when he first said that, I was kind of calling bullshit. I'm like, wait a minute, when Barry was in prison or when he was in the Speed Force, she was like picking up that giant gun thing and going out all the time. Like, yeah. she was helping capture metas.
She was.
On the field. So don't give me that shit.
No, you're right. It was kind of just weird. It's things like where, like, I thought this episode was fine. I don't hate it, but I don't particularly like it either. There's moments I like, and there's some jokes, but overall I'm just kind of on it.
Yeah, I think that's what saved it for me, but ultimately I think it's fair to say they fudged a lot of the characters' either memories or motivations to make the episode plot work.
Yeah, and I think my problem is a lot of them are they're doing it to make Iris better, right? Because it's her episode. And it kind of makes me like Iris a little less, that you have to work other characters around her to make her seem better. I'm like, it's fine. Just let her do her thing, and she's good enough.
Yeah, I don't like her any less. I think that's a weird.
I don't know. It kind of taints it a little for me when I'm like, it just feels like, okay, you don't need to be doing this. It kind of annoys me. It makes me like her a little less because of it.
It doesn't have any negative effect on the character to me. It's just sloppier writing for an episode.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Because arguably, I don't think she even needed this, but it was, for me, it was just like a fun concept to do for an episode. They just fudged too many of the characters to make it work for what they wanted to do with the narrative point at the end.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
But yeah, so I mean, I thought it was fine, and the fun stuff kind of saved it for me. But I think there's a lot of valid complaints to have as well. Well, I guess we'll move on to the Book of Revelations, which is the title of this week's episode of Black Lightning, which is episode 8 of season 1.
Don't mix things up. It doesn't work.
I did that entirely backwards from what I normally do.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that.
I don't know. We'll talk about Zatanna when we get to Young Justice. I'm just doing things backwards.
You wish. You wish it would be better than Zatanna.
In honor of Z. Anyway, so, well, that's a shortened name. That's what they call her.
I know, but I just don't use it.
You have this weird thing where you hate using alternate versions of things.
I do.
It's bizarre. Anyway, so Black Lightning. This is Jefferson's agreed to train Anissa, and we get that. We get the first chunks of that. We get them. We get the Kung Fu fighting song. Is that what's the name of it? Just Kung Fu.
Kung Fu fighting, I think.
That's Kung Fu fighting. Okay.
Right.
It's one of those things where I just wasn't sure if that was the name of it. Like that's what I remember of it, but
yeah, no, I'm sure it is that. I think.
Yeah, you get that intercut with all the police reports and the stuff in the news of like, oh no, we all hate Black Lightning now. He's killing folk and blah blah blah. Says okay, so we need to clear my name, but we're going to train because you need to train. And she actually straight up uppercuts him at one point, which cracked. I'll be honest, I cracked a little chuckle. I was like, oh jeez.
He kind of just went, what just happened there? Yeah. Where did that come from?
Yeah, damn. Okay, maybe straight one-on-one combat she's just better at. But then he points out her flaws, that she's too emotional and she doesn't think about what she's doing. Because it uses some of Gambi's fancy holograph tech to like, okay, so we're in a crowd now. There's like civilians around, and there's a guy with a Confederate T-shirt, and she like stomps the ground, and it like breaks his ankle and like a rib, and
yeah, I think it was breaks ankle would give him a concussion.
And he's like, hey, okay, he's an asshole, but he's still just a civilian who wasn't a threat.
Yeah, and she's like, but the flag is like, yeah, that doesn't make him a threat. Makes him maybe racist, but not a threat.
Yeah, you control your emotions a little bit. So that's clearly going to obviously be Anissa's journey. She has to like think, because I like the example they bring up that when she was in like second grade, she got suspended for kicking her teacher because she thought the teacher made her friend cry. And I'm like, that's actually a really good way of saying it. She's always been like this. But you sort of get the nobility part of it, where she thinks she's doing the right thing. She's got a noble intention, but she's just a bit headstrong, just doesn't think about it, and jumps in. It makes a lot of sense. So they've done some good character stuff with her, where she's really kind of well defined at this point. And probably some of my favourite stuff of this episode was them actually going out on missions. Out of costume as well, because if he puts on the suit, like people maybe
will recognise him and go, hey, he's wanted.
Yeah, so they're doing some stealth stuff where they're just going out in hoodies and stuff, and they break in to try and find Lady Eve's body, and it's like, okay, so this has been charred with electrocution, but it doesn't match this type of pattern to be left with his powers. This is different.
Yeah, it was more of a burn than electric.
And to be fair, like, and they even point out, well, the coroner wouldn't know this because Black Lightning doesn't kill people and send them victims.
For all he knows, he could be. Because that was the point. It was there's so much energy in the electricity that it just did a burn instead of conducted through.
Yeah, so it
for all they know, Black Lightning could have that much power.
Yeah, they don't know. So it's all very fair. And and I typically like superhero training stuff. I like the little moment where she's about to like break down the wall for them, and he's like, "Hey, like how much force is this going to take?" He's like, "I don't know." Okay, how much are you going to put into it? I don't know. Poke it with your finger first. And the one brick kind of moves and it cracks, and it's like, all right, so actually gauge it based on that, right?
Yeah.
And then she just full force, and the entire wall just kind of explodes. It's like, yeah, didn't need as much as that. You think?
Yeah.
Stealthy, and stealthy.
I'm enjoying the sarcasm between them.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying them both calling each other out for their hypocrisies. I think that's really good character work, because it's like, them acknowledging, okay, these writers are flawed, but that's the point. They have flaws because they're human beings. And I think all that stuff's really fun because like he keeps saying, "Oh, you need to pay attention and recognize what's a threat and recognize what's a danger," and she ends up saving his ass later on because he's the one who doesn't like pay attention and notice something. So yeah, there's some nice stuff going on there. It also nice because obviously this whole episode builds up to Gambi coming clean and telling Jefferson like the big secrets, and it really quite neatly has them talk about Gambi during the scene. Because first of all, I like him on the comms with them, so it's like they're hearing and he's giving them advice and. Because he's like giving them both advice and stuff, and that's cool. But I like them when they're in the forest and they're waiting for the guy because they found the weapons and they've called it in and again, there's some good exposition here because she asks some questions. Does he know you're Black Lightning? We know he doesn't, but like it's like she would ask that question. This makes sense, and so on. And she and I kind of like it when he's doing the voice. Because we've never seen him do that in front of someone, maybe in front of Lynn, but Lynn knows, like, has heard this 100 times. But her hearing him do the fake voice over the phone, you could just see her sort of smirking at the side of the frame, being like, this is kind of cool.
I need to learn to do one of those.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of things. It's her kind of like almost wonderment of like seeing her dad like do all these cool things and like, he's kind of a badass. I'm having fun with that. But the neat thing here is because it builds up to the Gambi reveal. They're talking about Gambi and it's like, why is he so like worried about you right now? He's like, that just it shows how he loves me and like he's always been like that and he's concerned and he cares. And they kind of like joke about him and he's kind of like the weird kind of like surrogate grandpa to
he is
to Anissa. And it's really neat writing because it sets us up for the brutal fall at the end when he tells Jefferson the truth and Jefferson's angry and you can't blame him for being angry. You can't. No. So it's very neat. It's the classic thing where you make them really happy about something and then tear it away with something sad.
Yeah, obviously.
But it was a neat bit of writing because it was like, okay, set this up and then, there. So unfortunately, they're happy. Jefferson's happy that Anissa spotted the threat and saved his ass. However, the explosion that the gun makes for this corrupt cop or someone like a corrupt cop sent here first, actually destroys all the evidence. Unfortunately, so he's not exonerated as of yet.
No. And then that led to one of the potentially funniest scenes of the episode for me. Is right after that. So you got Jefferson and he's gushing to Lynn about how she saved his life. And she's there going, okay, so this is actually really dangerous. I'm just kind of noticing that my daughter could die. Okay. Yeah. And you're really proud of this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course she already knows that Gambi's got a secret that he needs to tell him. So she's sitting with that knowledge as well.
There as well, but it's the almost passive, like just completely passive, just there going, I don't like this.
Don't like any of it. Well, she ain't going to like it much more when we get to Jennifer in a minute. So, but before we get to that though, I will just say it was funny. Nothing's topped the sex talk at the dinner table yet. That's the benchmark. I'm waiting for
I'll allow it.
But yeah, so Gambi reveals this thing, and we get hints of it like earlier on as well. So he was part of this organization who were doing tests in the town, to basically make people passive or something like that. He said it was like to calm them down. Docile. Yeah, but there was a side effect. It was starting to create metahumans, but it was also starting to kill people. Like it was having overdosing problems, and
killing children.
Yeah, and this led to Greenlight. This is the same basic structure as Greenlight. Obviously, it's maybe changed a bit over the years, but
yeah, enough of it's the same.
Yeah, and he actually, Gambi being a good person at heart, when he found out about this, said, "Oh, I can't be a part of this," and he leaked it to Jefferson's father, which led to him being killed. Which is obviously the part that makes it really personal and makes it like, no, even with his noble intentions, of course Jefferson's angry that he kept this from him. Of course he would be, like, absolutely, and. Yeah, so he storms out, and it's like, oh man, like he's turning away from his surrogate dad. It's a shame, It worked again. The acting here really, especially from Chris Williams as Jefferson, really sold it.
Yeah, definitely. It was good stuff.
So that's something we're set up going forward, and we get the sense that he's still part of this system. But of course, because we see him, he flat out lies. He's like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't kill Black Lightning because he's trying to he's playing both sides.
Yeah.
As we kind of suspected that he's still kind of involved in this, but he's trying to sort of take it down.
He's playing three sides, right? Because there's the ASA, which is the organization. Are they the same? I didn't think they were the same organization as Tobias and Lady Eve.
No,
Because they were called they were referred to as them as the Shadow Council, right?
I think they're the higher. Like I think because he mentions Lady Eve got green light out in the streets for them, so I think
that's true.
So I think it's like
they're a third party that they're affiliated with, I guess.
Yeah, so they're not part of the same organization, but I think the gangs and the criminals are doing their bidding because they're being paid to, presumably.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah.
So no, I think it's kind of like branches of the same thing. I don't think it's completely separate.
Yeah, but they have their own agenda as well. The criminals, right? They'll do this. We'll get the drug out. We'll supply that. That'll be what.
Yeah, but I don't think it's three sides because I think when Gambi went to speak to Lady Eve, it was kind of under the impression that he's from that organization. That's why she knows him.
Okay, no, that's fair. But I'm thinking with like Tobias as well, because Gambi is treated Tobias separately, right? Because he's off on his own now. He's gone rogue.
Yeah, but I think that was just like he knows him from before when this deal was in place.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I still think it's three sides. I think it's still just kind of two, but yeah. That may have been worth clarifying though if people were thinking there was like completely different.
Yeah, like, I get that they're linked in, like you know, they're in business with each other, but they feel like separate entities still.
And what does the acronym stand for?
I don't remember.
What did you say the other thing was called?
The ASA.
What was the other thing? The Shadow Network.
Shadow. I can't remember now.
Because if it was Shadow Agency or something like that, it might be just the acronym.
No, I don't think it was agency.
I'm just thinking maybe the acronym just means what you're saying.
No, because Gambi says what ASA was at some point.
Sure. Alright, well, I don't think Gambi has anything to do with this Shadow thing. I think that's just the criminals have their own thing, maybe. But
fair enough.
Yeah. I think at least, I mean, there might be this extra criminal element, but I think for now it's maybe just overcomplicating things to start thinking about that as a separate thing that's
it might well be
invading the plot. So I'm not sure, but we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. But yeah, so yeah, but big stuff, emotional stuff. I really like the scene where Lynn came to speak to Gambi, and she's just like, I need some help because I got the results back of the thing, and it's green light. You were here 30 years ago, and he just immediately is like, I can't talk about this. And she's like, what, why? And immediately the tone of the scene just changes, and it's like clear that he had something to do with this 30 years ago. I kind of like that. That worked for me.
No, that was pretty nice.
Well, let's talk about Jennifer then, because obviously this is maybe the big thing of the episode. Is
yeah.
We have the other, and this is the thing. This was inevitable because we knew she was going to get powers because from the comics, but inevitable as well that I love that it never doesn't feel cheap because no, they got their powers because they like the meta gene, if you want to call it that, get passed on from their father. That just makes sense that they both have powers. So we get our first glimpse of that. Her friend is like putting posters up. She's running for student president, and she's up high in a bit of scaffolding. There's someone's doing some painting or something like that. And
I will say I questioned why she was so worried about this. Those things are designed to be climbed on, right?
I don't think I might climb in the side of it like that.
No.
No, I think you have like a proper ladder.
Fair enough. But then you get up on it and you stand on it. It looked very rickety when she was climbing up it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't look as sturdy as it should.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just my misconception.
Maybe it's been sitting there for years, so she's like, no, that thing is ancient. It's going to fall apart. I don't know. But anyway, so she's concerned, and in her concern, there's a little fright at one point where she slips, and she's fine, her friend, but she slips, and we get some red lightning kind of burn the phone she's holding, and her eyes light up kind of red, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Interestingly, Gambi actually called Anissa Thunder in this episode. I thought, I didn't realise she'd got her name yet.
I didn't either.
I guess it'll make sense, though, when she finds out her sister's Thunder, she's going to be like, well, I'll be lightning.
Yeah.
It'll make sense. I do like that she goes to her sister and tells her about it, though, at the end.
Yeah.
I like that, because I'm curious how Anissa will deal with it. Will she tell her to hide it from her parents? Will she tell her about her dad being Black Lightning? Like, what's the tactic going to be?
Yeah, I will say, I'm not sure I feel this is the exact right time to have done this in the show, because it feels like for the last, 2-3 episodes, Jennifer's kind of been neglected to deal with Anissa's stuff, and rightfully so. Anissa's,
got a lot going on, yeah.
Yeah, and there was like a whole episode where Jennifer was in like 1 or 2 scenes, maybe just there, and it feels like this is kind of an out of nowhere. Just okay, right, we're back to pulling her in. I feel like it could have been a bit more. Let's deal with her a bit more gradually and then get to this.
I mean, I find it hard to judge in this one specifically because I want to see what they're going to do with it, with her getting her powers now. Because part of me was thinking she may not get them this season. This may be like, oh, we'll do that in season 2. We'll get to that later. But I think there's potential here if they have like maybe Anissa will have to like quickly get better at it because she's going to end up being the older one who's training her or something like that.
I can see that. It feels like, I don't know, and I'm fine with it going forward. It's just in this episode in particular, it felt like it was almost out of nowhere because Jennifer has been quite neglected recently.
No, that's fair. It is kind of just a random scene where all of a sudden, okay, we're getting to powers now. But I'm not sure what build-up you could have for it beyond...
I don't think I need build-up in terms of building for this moment, but just have her have been around and been a bit more involved over the last few episodes, so it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, we need to bring Jennifer back in. Oh, quick, powers. It's kind of how it felt to me.
Yeah, okay.
It kind of felt like they were running out of plot to do with her, and it was like, well, quick, give her powers.
Alright, I didn't quite get that vibe, but I can see why you're saying that.
It's not the end. Like I said, it's done now, so going forward it won't really matter. It was just something that crossed my mind when it happened.
Because basically my thought process when it happened was like, oh, that was kind of random. But then I thought, well, it's not really because we know she's going to get them. And we know it's just passed on, so it's going to kick in at some point.
Yeah, and it was obviously the heightened emotion, stress. You know, the usual stuff.
I'm wondering if they'll play with it, like if we get our boyfriend Khalil back, and you know he'll show up again, presumably with Tobias at some point.
Oh, he has to, yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder like if that heightened emotion will lead to some sort of thing. I'm wondering if by the end of the season we'll have like a situation where Jefferson's in trouble and the daughters have to team up and like go in and.
Almost certainly. If not though, maybe Black Lightning is kind of just off the record now. You know, because you know he's wanted. Yeah. So it's like, well, okay, well, it's up to you two for a bit.
Yeah. Although that said, though, I do think they're going to have a problem with their in high school teenage daughter doing this stuff. Because if you remember, one of the things from the comics with Anissa was that no, you can't do the superhero crap until you've finished with college. Like that's the rule. And I'm wondering if we'll get that with Jennifer in the show. They'll say, no, okay, once you're out of college, yeah, you can make your choice. You at that point you're an adult, but you're going to goddamn college before you.
Right, exactly. And I can see that, but then, as much as I want them to do that. Because that makes sense. It was sure they're transferring which daughter it applies to, but you know it's still there.
Yeah, only because the other one's already old enough to make exactly. Calls, yeah.
That's fine. I just how long can that go on before it's like, well, we need her around superhero and stuff, and it kind of just feels like they're not being the good parents anymore. They're kind of just going back on their word, which they've shown repeatedly that they stick to their word.
Oh yeah, no, they have, which I like about them actually.
Yeah.
Because I think Lynn, who
better
was
or worse, like when they're being fair or not.
Because back in the first episode, we said Lynn was maybe the weakest character element, and I think she's still arguably the weakest, and she's the least interesting of the four of the family members. But I still think she's grown a little bit, and I like her more. Like her reaction, because I like to see when Jennifer was like getting away with things because she wasn't like, because Lynn was like kind of like worried about this paperwork that was stolen, and she was just like, I'm gonna go hang up posters with my friend. Is that okay? It's like, yeah, sure. And she's not really paying attention. She's just saying,
do you know what? I'll be honest. When that was happening, and then she goes, "I'm gonna be out late," and she's like, "Yeah, whatever," and she grins. I was convinced she was off to do something else.
Yeah, and she ends up just. I think I think she's just happy that she got away with saying that, and she still said, "Yeah, fine."
Yeah, could be, but it really felt like, oh, she's doing something.
No, but she was actually just going around the school hanging up posters.
Yeah,
that was the extent of the mischief. To be fair though, she got into a lot of mischief recently that ended with her boyfriend being paralysed from the waist down. So you know,
I mean, I wouldn't really call going to a protest march mischief, but
well, no, but all the mischief that led up to them getting closer and all the rest of that. That's kind of what I mean by mischief. But hey, but yeah, so no, I think there's a lot of potential though with her getting her powers here. There's a sort of awkward debate. It's like, okay, well, and this is old enough, we can't stop her from making these choices, but Jennifer, we're still parents and she's still a kid. So we're going to make that call. I almost want the exact same scene as the sex talk scene at the dinner table, but it's about the powers, where she's like,
she just kind of blurts it out.
I'm going to be a superhero now. I'll be back before dinner though. Or before dinner on Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
I almost want this the same thing, but with powers. Here's my guess of what might happen is that I mentioned that I think Black Lightning will get in trouble and the two daughters will team up. Like, and this will be, okay, Jennifer, come and help because I need your help, right? Yeah. I also think that that'll be how Gambi gets involved again. Is I think they'll go to Gambi because obviously Jefferson's going to not want to go near him for a while. She'll be mad at him and not want to be working with him. I think it'll be either one or both of the daughters who go to him. Kind of like not forgiving him, but willing to work with them.
I can see that. And I can see them still training Jennifer, like so she's ready. Just
sure, yeah.
Not even just to train to fight, but more just control. Like the usual. So yeah, they've taught her, self-defense and everything else.
Because right now she's just like randomly burning things. Like she has to learn to control it, so she's not doing that.
Yeah, so they'll keep her in training, but it's like you're not going out on any missions.
Sure. But of course she's going to sneak away and do it anyway for a while. Probably
almost certainly.
Yeah, all the time. And potentially save the day sometimes when they were going to fail, which will make them question their choices, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they won't do the whole college thing. Maybe they'll just say, well, until you're 18, because that would be within the show's timeline quite comfortably.
It would, yeah.
Because that was the thing. They actually mentioned she's maybe applying for Harvard during the episode, so we'll see how that conversation goes down if and when it arises. But I don't know what she's meant to be now, like 17, 16.
I'm not sure. I don't know if she's actually like almost ready to apply, like she's applying the next year, or if it's just she's that forward thinking.
Yeah. Because I'm kind of thinking, okay, so they're applying next, because maybe they're in their junior year and next year's senior, and that's when they're going to be applying. So maybe that's So which would put her turning 18 maybe by the end of season 2, give or take, depending on what the time jump is like between seasons and.
Yeah. Assuming it follows the usual rules of they're roughly real time-ish on these network shows.
Yeah, usually, not always, but usually.
Yeah.
Obviously, 24 is the polar opposite.
yeah. There are obviously exceptions, and it's never an exact science. I mean, it was exact in Flash this week because it dated it in Iris's blog at the end. So it did. But it's usually pretty roughly about right.
Yeah, that's fair. So I thought it was a solid episode. I liked all the bonding, father-daughter stuff, and of course the big Gambi revelations. And as random as it may be, I did at least like the teases. But my favorite part of the Jennifer stuff though is that she goes and tells Anissa. We don't drag this out where she's hiding it for a while.
I like it going forwards, even though in this episode I'm kind of so on it.
Because I like that Anissa's reaction is just kind of that look in her face, like, oh shit, of course she's got powers too. Of course she does.
Yeah. I did laugh. She's just stood there and she's like, "Are you pregnant?"
Yeah, that's her first guess.
Yeah.
She's like, No, I'm just firing electricity out of my hands. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just blowing shit up.
And we almost forgot to talk about perhaps the most fascinating part of this episode of Black Lightning, and that is Lala. Because of course he came back from the dead at the end of the last episode, and Lawanda's kind of there. She's still there. She's like a ghost, like not the real ghost of her, but just like his conscious or whatever,
she's just in his head.
Yeah, I don't want to say conscious because it feels more like it's not necessarily that she's inspiring good thoughts in his head. It's just that she's there to it's like his own doubt and like fears and like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if there is actually anything of Lawanda in there because I don't think she says anything that he couldn't know.
Yeah. But she's just kind of there to torment him. And what I like about this is I like that he's still got menace, but you get the sense that he's not as immediately violent and headstrong because he's just kind of like in shock that he's back and he's not really sure what to make of it.
Yeah, there's like all the scenes because you see him in the limo or whatever it was, and
the guys. Which, by the way, that scene. See, is the guys in the front were starting to realize, like, because at first I was like, are they hearing him talk? Like, is he actually talking out loud in front of them? And the more it cut to their reactions, like, oh, they can hear him. And then eventually, like, Lawanda in his head's like, you should kill him. And he's like, you want me to kill, whatever his name is in the front? And it's just his reactions, like, what?
Yeah, that was cracking me up.
Everything okay, Lala? Everything fine?
Yeah. And then when he gets to the club, and they're playing the song, and it's all just a bit off, isn't it? It's like, it's like he's confused about who he's supposed to be. I mean, he's still him, and I still think he might get really violent and vicious again. But it's like he's not as like macho about it. He's not as certain of himself.
Yeah. He's confused why he's here and what's going on, and I'm really curious to see how this plays into everything else later. Like, but does he remember that Tobias killed him? If he doesn't, does he remember and then want revenge, or does he? How does that intertwine later? Like, I can see It's very interesting because this is obviously the most supernatural or like weird thing the show's introduced, but at least so far it's very intriguing. Like I'm not feeling like, oh, this doesn't belong in the show. I'm like, oh, what's this about? What's going on? Like I'm intrigued.
No, definitely. It's like I said, we mentioned last time, it felt like he was a big thing at the start of the show, and then it was like, oh, he's dead, and we thought, okay, at least they give him, they set up their opening.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, but now he's back, but it's different. It's got a different feel to it because this is it's only 8 episodes later since the start of the show, but it's a completely different world to what we started in now.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is like, does he have any like extra abilities because he's like undead?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Can he be killed again?
Because I'm just wondering, will he keep coming back? Is this like a running thing, and I'm wondering as well, does this mean that come the final fight of the show, does this mean that like Lightning will take on Tobias? Does this mean that Lala's got the girls to fight?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Or something. I'm just wondering, like, does everyone get a bit of action in the finale with the big showdown?
And that's the thing as well. Does he have any extra abilities other than just coming back? Because obviously he's only just figuring out that he's alive, right? Again, he's out of it.
He's out of it. He's dazed. He's like just confused.
Right, but does he have any sort of abilities that we don't know about yet?
And if you are going to do that, we're like, okay, so Tobias is more personal for Jefferson, but arguably Lala is a bit more personal for the girls because we started the show with him kidnapping both of them. So
definitely.
It would be a nice, like, sort of empowering thing for them at the end of the season to be able to take him on, even if he has got like super strength or something. Like because now we're tough, now we're heroes, we can do this. So there's potential. I'm digging the Lala stuff.
Me too.
All right, we'll move on then. We'll do Lois and Clark. We'll round out the live action stuff. So this is obviously one of our retro shows that we swap in when we go below 4 main shows. The reason why I say 4 main shows is that when Krypton's on as well, it means that we can lose one and not swap something in, because we'll have potentially 5 in a week. So we'll just take the slightly better week when there's one off. So we got Lois and Clark. This is season 1, episode 8. It's called The Green Glow of Home. So I'll give you one guess as to what's introduced in this episode.
I didn't know the name of the episode.
Oh, did you not? No.
No, I didn't. And I was watching the opening, and I think it's like the pre-credits bit.
Yeah,
someone's like, "Oh, there's nothing that can hurt me."
It's a carjacker who shoots them multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, can you be hurt by anything? It's like, not that I know of. I was like, well, I guess this is the Kryptonite episode.
Yeah. So we get the character back from episode 2. What was his name? Trask. Who was looking for Superman, and here he's like, it's because one of the other farmers dug up some kryptonite. He's like, oh, we're going to go and dig for this, and they're doing all this. And Clark convinces Perry that there's a potential story here because there's like some farmer rights being infringed. There's the government's
civil liberties. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's gonna be a big story. And Lois is dead set against it, and Perry's like, hey, that other reporter went to that other asshole, town, middle of nowhere. Not asshole town. I meant ass end of nowhere, but you know what I mean. Right, and that reporter won a Pulitzer, and he's like, fine.
God damn it, Perry.
So we get her going to Smallville and cracking jokes that there was like the corn festival and everything else, and yada yada yada. Yeah. Honestly, some of the best stuff in this episode is Lois meeting like Clark's like high school girlfriend, who's not Lana Lang, interestingly enough. They went with some other character, but
yes, can't remember her name now.
Who's now the sheriff of Smallville, which is pretty young to be a sheriff, actually, when you think about it.
It is. I mean, sheriff's an elected position, right?
I think so, yeah. Because we know that Lois, in episode 1, she mentioned she was 26. So you imagine Clark's about the same age.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, at most 30.
Oh, tops, yeah. He's definitely in the 25 to 30 range.
Yeah, so, so that sheriff also has to be the same age as him if they're in school together, so... I don't really care. I'm just pointing out.
I like this is a show with Superman in it. And you're questioning it.
It's fine. Yeah. My favorite stuff was the Lois in Smallville making fun of stuff and meeting the parents. I like stuff like Clark's mom like turning around and saying, "Oh, I love her," like quietly, like behind her back.
Yeah. Lois is faux pas repeatedly.
Repeatedly saying things she shouldn't, and thinking, oh, that barbecue chef over there, he's probably a cross-dresser, and obviously it's Jonathan.
Yeah, Clark's just grinning along. Yeah, sure.
And then he tells Martha what she thinks. He's like, oh, that's Jonathan. And she's just standing there awkward as shit. And then she eventually puts on...
That was good, but I think the fax moment is better.
Oh yeah, when they're like, oh, we're maybe getting a fax tomorrow, and Martha goes, a fax? And obviously she's just about to say, oh well, I better put some paper in the fax machine. But Lois goes like, oh, a fax is this thing, and it sends a message to another thing, and it prints it out. It's really fancy and technical, as if these farm folk, these small town folk, won't know what a fax machine is.
And then she just goes, yeah, all the farmers around here have them. Got to keep in touch.
It did crack me up. And of course, the funny thing now is that the joke here is that she thinks the simple townsfolk won't know what a fax machine is because that's fancy technology, and to us we're like, fax machines? Who uses a fax machine anymore?
I know.
Some businesses do use them actually still, but
they do. I get it for whatever reason. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just email it and print it, but
I think it's one of these things where they set up like all the networks and they're
just lazy.
They set up all their networks and they set up all the companies that use them and still use them. They set up their workflow to work with it, and now they just hate the idea of switching to another method. So it's just
probably
that'd be my guess. I mean, someone could tell me if that's wrong.
I do think fax is a fantastic technology for the time.
Oh sure, yeah. At the time, it was a great idea.
Ingenious.
It's basically just a remote photocopy.
It is. It's genius, isn't it? It's like, okay, we can take this, we can transmit that information and reprint it somewhere else. Yeah, that's not too bad for when it was.
Yeah, and pagers made sense as well for a time. Although Lois does have a 1993 phone here, cell phone. Yes,
the bulky piece of thing.
It's not too bulky though. It's not quite because if you see the one from the 80s, where it's the big brick comes with it.
The big block. Yeah,
the big block, and then you've got the phone that's attached to it. This was at least completely on its own. It just looked kind of bulky. But hey, so much so that I actually went, I didn't even realise cell phones had gotten that far in 1993. I was still expecting the big bulkier thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But hey, you
live and learn.
Do you know what's funny, actually, seeing like old 90s stuff, and you have some characters who are usually businessmen, or in Lois's case, like a reporter, they have the cell phones. What I kind of like is that when they say that there's no reception somewhere, I actually buy it, because, back then there wouldn't have been as many cell towers, because only so many people had phones.
Yeah, now it's like, you say there's no reception, I'm like, piss off.
There are places like that. I've been in some, like, just buildings that just block it. Like, just no matter where you are in there's certain buildings, you just won't get a reception.
Yeah, there was when I was in university, there was a pub we always used to go to.
Yeah.
That I was the only person I know who got signal in there based on, I was on a different network to everyone else. And no one could get it except for there was one table in the building where you got signal. So it was always all the students wanted that table.
I mean, again, it does happen, but it's really specific, and it's usually just a building that's blocking it. It
is, yeah.
But hey, it made me chuckle. It just made me think of like how things have changed, and that's the thing about watching a show that's 25 years old. Is like it's still quite close to our time period, and relatively speaking, but technology's advanced so much that I chuckle.
Yeah, even though it's all recognizable, it kind of feels like ancient history, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was the same when me and Matt did the Jurassic Park commentary for Patreon this past week. At one point, someone goes, "Ooh, it's got a CD-ROM." Cracks me up.
Yeah.
Even just saying that, because we would say CD drive, DVD drive, Blu-ray drive. We would say,
or a CD player maybe.
I mean, technically, it is a BD-ROM. Like technically, BD-ROM is a phrase that can be used, but no one says it.
No, they don't.
Do you say Blu-ray drive, DVD drive, whatever? Anyway, so basically the main plot is that Trask is there. He's kidnapped this farmer and he's trying to lure in or find where this kryptonite is, and he ends up kidnapping Clark and Lois at one point. And Clark, when he gets exposed to the kryptonite earlier on, because Jonathan has it and he doesn't know it's going to hurt him obviously at first. He feels pain, and then this show also has the element where he loses his powers for the next day or two.
Yeah, it has a lingering effect. It's not just shut the lid and he's fine again.
Yeah. I guess that was just to give it some sort of bigger consequences, because it means he's vulnerable. Because there's a bit later on where he actually, to try and stop everything from happening, he actually just says to Trask, "Hey, I'm Superman." But then Trask goes to shoot him and he gets scared because he's still weak. He's still human. Yeah.
I will say, I don't recall much later on with kryptonite. Like I not no specific.
I'm sure it comes back up though.
Right. But no, I agree. It must come back up, but I feel like maybe they drop this element later.
Oh, probably.
Like, it feels like a thing just for this episode.
And to be fair, it's not like Smallville, where you're surprised when there's an episode that doesn't have kryptonite to weaken him.
Oh, no, that's true. I can't give it that criticism.
Other stuff that I liked a lot, obviously there's not as much as Perry and Jimmy in this episode because they're kind of back at the office for the most part. Jimmy does come out eventually, and of course he actually kind of gets his own signal watch, because he kind of turns it on, and Clark's like, what the hell's that? And he finds Jimmy, and he's like, hey, maybe you should use that in emergencies, Jimmy. And it's like, yeah, good thinking, CK. Good thinking. And obviously gets used later. So we've actually got the signal watch, which is cool.
Yeah, you got Jimmy trying to break his way into being a proper photographer.
Yeah. And I actually kind of like how he does it. He's like, hey, Chief, someone had to make a chance on you once. And he's like, yeah, all right, fine, Jimmy. He's like,
fine, don't, only because there's no one else.
And Jimmy, never hug me again. That whole thing. But no, the other fun thing I really liked is when Clark phones Perry and then Lois phones Perry at the same time, and he's like swapping between the calls, and Clark's like, because it's obviously all kryptonite and Superman related, he's trying to get rid of Lois so that he can just like quickly deal with it. And he's like, yeah, there's not a story here, Perry. I mean, I can finish up, but we may as well send Lois back. And then Lois comes like, hold on, Clark, and we get the split screen that then becomes like a three-way split screen, and he's like, Perry, we're onto something big. It's like, really? Have you talked to Clark about this? Yeah, of course I have. It's like, all right, hold on a minute. Clark, have you talked to Lois about this? It's like, oh yeah, you know what she's like. She's stubborn and she thinks, if we don't find something, it's not been worth doing. So she's determined to find something, but there's nothing really here. And then Lois is like, there's something really big here. Clark's just naive. It's just the way it was all playing off of each other. And then, it was funny from Perry's perspective because he was just kind of reacting to everything. But then when they both sort of walk into the same room with the phones and like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
So no, fun stuff.
It was definitely the best episode in a while.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed the Smart Kids episode, so I have no complaint.
Yeah, I didn't really like that one that much.
But that was solid. That was a good mythology episode. Introduced to kryptonite. Trask did get killed because the sheriff lady shows up and like stops him from taking a shot at the end.
Well, it had to be done. He knew his identity.
He did. He finds out he's actually Superman, and he's like amazed when like he just saves his parents really easily with sucking in the fire and blowing it out.
Yeah.
Just
standard Superman stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. And I liked that we actually did have kind of. It's funny because one of our favorite issues of the current Superman run was the issue where they go to a fairground, and that actually happens in this episode with just Clark and Lois, and they kind of let's just have some fun since we're here, and they do the various things, and it's when he's human still. He's still human, so he's weak, and they've got the whole hammer thing with the bell, and. He tries it a couple of times. He's like, you know what, that was really close. Do it one more time. And he does it. And of course, they have a Superman photo at the top. Like, if you hit the top, you're Superman.
would, yeah.
It's almost like they know that Superman's from Smallville and they're like milking it.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure I've seen these with Superman at the top.
Oh, yeah, but he's pop culture here. In our world.
Yeah, he is in their world now too. With that whole parade in Metropolis.
Alright, okay. Well, no, sure. I'm just saying, it's almost like, there's a town in Canada called Vulcan. You bet their ass they've got Spock and Vulcan stuff all over the place.
Damn right they do.
And obviously they had that name before Star Trek was a thing, but they're milking it now.
Oh yeah. Oh, they have to. Because why wouldn't you?
But yeah, so that's fun, but I like the moment at the end because the guy's like, okay, so pick a stuffed toy, and he holds out like was it like a panda bear maybe, I think, and a Superman stuffed toy. It's like this moment where she's going to look, and he's like, she's going to put it with Superman because she's obsessed, and she picks the bear, and it's like, that was an oddly sweet little moment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And obviously there was a moment as well where Martha's like, you can have the couch and you can have his old bedroom, unless you two are. And it's like, no, we're not. Shut up.
No, that wasn't awkward at all.
Yeah, it wasn't awkward. Yeah, it's not like we're going down that path sooner or later.
That'll never happen.
Nah, I like it. And they're actually bonding properly when they're at the fairs. There's some sweet moments, there's some proper mythology introduced. All in all, this is a pretty solid episode.
It is. It's pretty good.
So yeah, there you go. Lois and Clark. Green glow at home. So, we shall move on to our final thing of the week, and of course we are working our way through Young Justice. This is season 1, episode 19. It's called Misplaced, and so we have, what's his name? Clarion gets a bunch of the other evil mages and magician characters, and they do a spell, and seemingly all of the adults disappear in the world, including the heroes. So Batman disappears, Zatara disappears, and everyone under 18 is the one who's left. And but we see that this is everywhere. This is the whole entire planet. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is some leftovers shit here. Okay, what's happening? Yeah. And Joe, it's funny actually. I actually called, I guess, the twist
right
a little bit early because I started thinking about like, yeah, but where are they all being kept? And I was like, did they just split the universe in two and all the adults are in the alternate Earth? And it actually ended up being exactly that.
Did you get to that before it jumped backwards to the adults? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, and I'm not criticizing it. I just I guess it's just because I'm used to thinking about alternate realities and these kind of things, but I kind of called it. But I like it because it became a very interesting use of Captain Marvel.
It did, didn't it?
Because he's a kid and he's like, oh wait, I can't turn into Shazam. I can't say the word because if I do, I'll be an adult.
I might disappear.
I'll disappear. But then of course he actually has to do it eventually because he's in the plane with was it Gina? What did I say? Jenny maybe.
Jenny, maybe? That sounds more like it.
She mentions, oh, I'm turning 18 at midnight. He's like, wait, what? And then she disappears and he's in the plane himself and he's like, alright, well, I'm just going to have to say it.
Yeah,
so he says it.
For the best.
And then, obviously, by this point, we've seen it cut back and we've seen that the adults all went into their world without the kids, so they're all concerned where the kids are. And the whole thing turns out this is all a distraction because the Light want to steal something from Star Labs. That's what the whole ruse is about.
It's a pretty big distraction.
Yeah.
It works.
Oh, it absolutely does. And yeah, and there's some fun stuff where like Zatara and Zatanna have similar dialogue because they're both looking at the Fate helmet and like, all right, I mean, is this desperate yet? And like, oh, it's not that desperate. Like, they both kind of say that. Yeah, in both sides. But yeah, so the adults are all worried about the kids, and that causes kind of like some parents are starting to riot, and that's kind of a distraction because obviously all the Justice League are doing are trying to figure out how to fix this. Yeah. That's all they're doing. Cause
I love the opposition because obviously they're adults, so everyone can take care of themselves, so we can focus on fixing it. But on the kids' side, nothing happens until they're just like, okay, let's go and round up all the kids, and all the babies everywhere.
Yeah, I actually really like the scenes of them going around and collecting the kids and taking them to the local high school. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Put them somewhere, put the older kids in charge.
Yeah, Superboy like kind of smiling because it's funny because Superboy's been so pissed off every time he's seen someone wearing a superhero t-shirt, but he sees a baby in a Superman hoodie, which actually made me smile because I've got that hoodie, just obviously bigger, but.
So.
Yeah, but just the blue hoodie with the logo on it. But it kind of smells because he's like, that's kind of cute.
I've never found one of those hoodies in a shade of blue that I really like. They're always just too light or too dark. I've never found one that's just the right shade of blue.
I think mine's is just fine, but I mean, I guess it's open to.
I guess every time I see them, in the shops, I'm like, you know what, the blue's just not quite right.
Well, get another one. Get either the Flash or Green Lantern variants of the same thing. Just the red hoodie with the Flash logo or the green hoodie with the Green Lantern logo.
Do. But yeah, I want the Superman one. I want all of them. Obviously.
Yeah, I want a complete set. One. Yeah, I assume there's a grey one with the Batman logo on it. There has to be.
Probably, but that's boring.
I haven't seen that one though. Anyway, so when Shazam realizes he can like flip between the two. So every time he goes between them, he actually travels between the two worlds. He actually relays information from the Justice League to the Teen Titans and back and forth. So he sort of keeps going back. And they basically say, okay, so we have to do the attack in this location. We've tracked where all the energy's coming from. So we have to fight the adults on this side. You fight the annoying brat on your side. And we have to get the crystal and we get a big fight. But of course, it's all going to shit. So Zatanna brings in Fate's helmet and puts it on. Because Fate might give them the strength they need to fight back. And when they eventually win, they merge, they get the crystals together, and everyone merges back together again. Zatara basically says, "Fate, give me my daughter back, and I'll put the helmet on. You can have me instead."
He's gonna keep Zatanna because obviously the way they've talked him out of it before was, they weren't really magical enough. Zatanna, on the other hand, yeah, and he goes, nah, Kent was protesting, so I sent that bugger away. He's gone to the afterlife now.
But no, Zatara makes the choice. He's like, hey, I'm more experienced than her. I'm a better magician, so take me.
Yeah.
And he does. So it's a really touching moment. It's good for Zatanna. She's officially on the team, which is great. But also she starts off in this kind of sad path because there's been like a sacrifice almost to like get her here.
She wanted to be on the team, but she's only there because she's got nowhere else to live now because she can't her father's off doing Fate stuff.
No, but I like that development, and the fight was mostly fun. Like I say though, the standout stuff for me was the Titans going around collecting the kids, sending out the videos to like inspire all the other teenagers who are a bit older to like, hey, look after the younger folk, like you know, look after your siblings. If you don't have a sibling, find someone who's an only child who's not got a bigger brother or sister and take care of them.
Definitely.
There's a nice sentiment to that. But my favourite thing was the colourful use of Shazam, and even when they find out, and it's like, who's this kid? Why is he here in the cave?
Because he just appears as a kid.
It's like, I'm Captain Marvel. It's like, yeah, sure, Pipsqueak. And he's like, hey, Miss Martian, read my mind. And she reads it. He's like, oh, he's Captain Marvel. He shifts between them. Like,
they're like, he believes he's Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and then he says something like, you know, about Wally. He's like,
do I need to bring nachos and cocoa every time I come over?
And he's like, huh. So that was just a fun little reveal that they've found out now that he's actually a kid. That was all good stuff.
And it seems to be maybe the League didn't know. Because one, the teleporters weren't programmed to take him as Billy Batson, and two, when at the start of the episode, when it cuts back, Batman's like, yeah, we don't know where Shazam is. He seems to be missing. Like him and Zatara are talking about it, and they don't seem to put together that, oh, he's a kid, so that's why he's not here. They're like, no, he's missing.
The reason I dispute that I mean, the first point I think is just fine, because they're like, why would they ever come as a kid? I guess is how I'd explain that. That second point does make sense. However, later on, they seem to just understand that you can switch between the two worlds really easily. That could just be the way it's edited, but it felt like they knew to me in that scene. So that's
maybe I was questioning why, because when they were like, question where he is, where was he? I was like, okay, so they don't know he's really a kid, because otherwise they'd go, okay, he's with the kids.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal. But hey, so I liked all the Shazam stuff. I liked, and even it was kind of sweet when he got back to his uncle as well. All that stuff I thought played quite well. So, now Young Justice continues to be solid.
And I will say, I'm really happy with the Fate helmet that it's permanent this time, because it's teased it a few times, and there's only so many times you can tease it before it just feels like this is a get out of jail free card. Yeah,
of course, yeah. But now it's permanent, at least for the time being, until something happens. So that's pretty cool. That actually wraps us up for the week then. So obviously what we do is we pick our favourite episode of the week. This is just out of the new shows, of course, out of the new airing shows. So we got Legends, we got Flash, and we got Black Lightning to pick from. So how are you feeling?
Legends, no question. This episode got me good.
That is fair. For me, it's a bit closer between that and Black Lightning.
Don't get me wrong, Black Lightning's very good still,
yeah.
But I had a few more issues than you did.
I didn't dislike Flash as much as a lot of people seem to this week, but I still agree it's easily the weakest of the three. Like, there's too many flaws to not think that. But
I can't take it seriously with the other two.
Yeah. I think the emotional beats work for me more in Black Lightning, so I think I'm going to. Well, no, see, I really like that.
Did they work more than the Rat?
The Rat was emotional, and I really like that Zari Wally stuff. Like, I really liked what that was doing for both those characters.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll give it to the Legends. The Legends can have a 2 for this week. And we'll see how it goes next week. So yeah, just to remind you about next week, no Flash or Arrow next week, but we do have the Krypton premiere. We will also swap in Smallville, so we've got a fourth sort of hour-long show, and as usual we'll have Young Justice. So next week will be Legends, Black Lightning, Krypton.
How many Legends have we got left?
Not a lot.
Only a couple, right? 2 or 3?
Because April's when Supergirl's back, sometime in April, so... let me just remind myself what the number was. This was number 14. There's 17 episodes this year, so there's 3 more. Oh wait, no, it's 18 I think this year, because it was 16 season 1. There was 1 more season 2, and I remember joking there was another 1 extra this year, so I think it's 18. So there's 4 left.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'll go back and check.
I'm not certain, but
yeah, 18. There's 18 episodes.
Right. Okay. So we got another month of it. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is this a mistake in IMDb, or is this actually the title of this episode? Not the next one, because the next couple are...
Oh, I know. I think I know which one it is. Go on.
Episode 17 is currently called Guest Starring John Noble.
Oh. No, that is not the title.
Yeah, I was just going to say...
I think 17's the play on the good, bad, and the ugly. I think that's that one, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Right, because right now on IMDb, that episode is called Guest Starring John Noble, which I think would be hilarious if that was actually the title.
That would be interesting.
John Noble, of course, voices Malice, so there's a reason for him to be around. But like,
oh, maybe it is. No, maybe it is because that's 18 that
right.
I was thinking of.
That can't be the title, unless it's going to like break the fourth wall, and it's like.
I don't know. I'm seeing some. I'm looking at a different place entirely.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the site where we check what's on the next week. That also says 17 is called guest starring John Noble.
What is this episode?
Oh no! For the record, have you got the name of episode 18 there?
Not an IMDb, no. What is it? Unless it's spoilery.
It's not.
It's okay.
The Good, the Bad, and the Cuddly.
Beebo's back. Beebo's back. No. Lord Beebo.
I don't think that's spoilery, but I just
I'm so right though. I'm so right. All right, cool. So that's what's happening next week. And just remember again, if you want to get the Krypton pilot review early, we'll be putting that up. I think it airs on Wednesday, so it'll be up sometime on Thursday. We'll get to that. But then it'll also be edited into the regular episode at the end of the week. So there you go. That is the plan for next week. And then the following week, Arrow's back, but Flash is still off. So they both had 2 weeks off, but they weren't perfectly in sync. Yeah. They were kind of out of sync. But hey. So yeah, we're going to have a week where it's Arrow and no Flash, which is really upsetting. But hey.
Don't remind me.
And then we're potentially going to have 5 shows for a few weeks unless other things take a break.
So it's going to be hectic.
It's going to be hectic. But it shouldn't be too... Because obviously Krypton's going to outlast all on Supergirl, of course, because Supergirl's coming back later, but it should outlast all the other shows.
If we keep it for the whole season, it will easily outlast them, yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah, of course. Which is good. It means that Supergirl will have a buddy for a little while.
Yeah. Before we're just completely into off-season.
Yeah, and it's just retro shows and more Young Justice, which is also kind of retro, but it's also kind of ongoing because I feel like it was cancelled for a while, but because there's a new season coming,
it was cancelled for like 4 years.
Yeah, but now it's got a new season coming. It's still kind of contemporary now.
Yeah.
Because it's not a reboot season. This isn't like when they bring back Will and Grace or they bring back the X-Files.
This is just the next season.
Yeah. But hey. So,
strange.
Anyway, so that's us wrapped up. That is this week's television for the Multiverse. So by all means, let us know what you thought of the episodes in the comments. Like and subscribe. Get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. If you want to support the show and support the channel, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. There's a link in the description for that. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. And always remember that sometimes we screw things up for the better.